Hey guys, it's Jay from the Big Buck Registry Deer Hunting Podcast, and we're back for another live session on Facebook and through the Blue Jeans app, and I'm here with Sam Ubel. What's happening, Sam?
How you doing? It's nice to be back on the phone, guys.
It's very cool. Got Dusty Phillips down there in his studio in Ohio. How are you, Dusty?
I'm doing great, Jay. How is everybody? Sam, how are you?
I'm glad to be out of work, out of the office for the day, and relaxing here with Coke and a splash of whiskey.
Nice.
Very nice. Oh, we have to get this out of the way first, Sam. Can you tell us about the two deer that are hanging on the wall behind you? We might as well just jump right to the chase here.
Sure. That one there, let's see, which way am I pointing there? This one here is one I got 2 years ago. It was that Snowy River hunt. We took a boat down. That was the same year, the first year I filmed with Jared with Whitetail Journal, and we did that canoe hunt. And then, a couple of weeks later, I went down a river here in Wisconsin and ended up killing him. And then that one right there, that's a big 8-pointer. He's got a real cool chocolate rack, and he's kind of got a blonde toupee. Something that was kind of unique about him, but he's a 5.5-year-old deer that I first caught on camera as a 2.5, and then again as a 3.5. And then when he was 4.5, he kind of disappeared on me, and was a ghost. I thought maybe, like the neighbors got him or something, or he got smoked on the road or something. But it was the second day of the season or third day of the season, and of archery season here in mid-September, and he came on a string. I had found a bed in a spot on this piece that I was hunting at the time called, I used to call that area the jungle. And I found a bed, and I had hung a camera about 100 yards away by some oaks. And there's not much for trees out on this particular piece, and where there were trees, they were all, and they were dropping acorns like crazy in earlier in September, and so it was a perfect place to get pictures. And I wasn't going to hunt there because I kind of parked near there. And he showed up on camera, and a couple of days later, I killed him about 75 yards away from his bed. Yeah.
Very cool, man. So this is like your crib that you're hanging out in. This is your house.
It is, yeah. I share it with my wife and my daughter. So we're kind of on a maiden agreement, like a rotation plan here. So only 3 shoulder mounts on the wall at a time. So I got these 2 hanging here, and then I got one in the stairwell. I've got a pretty neat European mount of a non-typical. You can't see just off the screen here. And then I got another couple up in the closet, and we got 2 more coming from the taxidermist this season. So I have to figure out which one I want to have on the wall.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining us. And, you were featured on our podcast back in November 19th, 2016, and it was entitled "Sam Ubel, Keep the Deer Guessing, Ground Hunting the Thick Stuff, and the Importance of Fresh Sign." We got kind of, since we've talked to like Dan Infault and those guys, it kind of reminds me a lot about your hunting and how you go deep into the swamps, and you take canoes out to where you want to go and things like that.
Yeah.
Tell me about Tell me more about that.
Well, a lot of that started. My dad, growing up, we spent our weekends together. My dad's big into canoeing and to adventure style hunting, and he did a whole lot of hiking. And we'd go into public pieces all the time, and duck hunting especially. I remember, he'd put a canoe on a set of wheels, and then we'd pull that through a big field of tall grass, or through a farmer's pasture, cattle pasture, or wherever we could get permission to get into, the backside of public land. And then he would bury the portage, this portager on wheels that he'd roll the canoe in. He'd bury that in leaves, and they put the canoe on his shoulders, and they'd carry that another 7,500 yards to get to the cattails. And then when he got to the cattails, he had marsh skis that he built, and he would hide those out in the cattails and then put them on, and then drag the canoe through the cattails another couple hundred yards just to get to the open water to duck hunt. those are the kind of adventures that we go on, that and jump shooting ducks on the rivers and whatnot. And I kind of fell in love with it. And so I guess those kind of adventure style, excursions just sort of come natural to me. And with regards to, hanging hunts and keep deer guessing and all that, I would say that the more appropriate way to phrase with relation to Dan Infault would be, I'd say, he reminds you more of me, or so to speak, because a lot of what, I remind you, I'm not sure how you said it, but the point
right.
is Dan.
I know what you're saying.
Dan really, he is. I've known Dan not real close, but we've run into each other a few times, and know a few mutual friends, and then being on his website since it started on the Hunting Beast, I learned a lot from him, and I just put those things to use. So yeah, that's kind of my background.
Gotcha. I'm just posting on Facebook now, so if anybody has any questions for Sam, definitely now's the time to post. We're going to feed Sam the questions as they come in. So we have a few things we want to talk about as we go along. But if you have any questions, definitely, if you're watching this feed right now, now's the time to type in the questions below.
Hey, how dark is it? Hey, can you guys see me okay now? Because it looks dark on my end.
No,
Is it light
good.
enough?
Yeah.
Okay. There's less reflection on my head, huh?
Let's see, Doug Whitcomb has joined us. What's going on, Doug? I was talking to Doug just before we went live. And Dusty, your dad's here, by the way.
Yeah, what's up to the Chuckster?
The Chuckster. What's going on, Chuck? So let's talk about Chase Nation, Sam. What's that all about?
Yeah, so a good friend of mine, Brad Rowinski, he and I, we had been filming with another crew, Wisconsin Whitetail Pursuit. He had been doing it since they originated. I think that would have been 6 years ago now. And then I joined them in season 4, and we filmed for that season 4 DVD. And then season 5, we did an online webisode or web series, and that was a lot of fun. And I got to meet a lot of great guys and whatnot. But I had a different vision of what I wanted to do, and I think Brad was very much in the same boat. And so we started Chase Nation in December after this last season ended for us. We started Chase Nation. It's 100% do-it-yourself adventure hunts. That is what we really that's what we put the name in front of, is straight up adventure hunts. It's whatever it takes to get there. And then once you're out there, I want to be able to share that story. I want to tell that story. And then sometimes when it comes to filming hunts, I feel like a lot of guys forget about what it takes to get out of there. It's hard enough to get back to some of the places we go. And then once we get there, we go through the hunt. Maybe you're sweaty, so after you settle down and you get cold and you get stiff. And then whether you kill a deer or not, or whatever you're hunting, it's what did it take to get back out of there and get home safe? And that was kind of our niche. I mean, a lot of guys go through it, but not everybody runs a camera from start to finish. We really wanted to focus on telling the story. So, you were right there and you could feel that wind in your face, or you could feel the snow in your eyelids, and feel the cold and know what the stress and everything that you go through when you do it because you love it, and you put yourself out against those elements on purpose, and you do it willingly. It's for the love of it. And that's why we do what we're doing to Chase Nation. Right now we've got 6 featured episodes, since December. Everything, there's 2 whitetail hunts. There's one in Montana. There's that one back there, that Snowy River hunt. There is we've got a billy goat hunt up in Alaska, up in the mountains. We've got a archery black bear hunt in northern Wisconsin, Bayfield County. We've got a late season doe hunt in some negative temperatures that just are ridiculously cold. One of our guys, John Utek, went on and it just made for an awesome film. And then most recently today, we released our 6th episode, which takes place in the southern foothills of Appalachia. And that's with Doc Tucker, who goes after some rainbow and brown trout. And that's another thing. We didn't want to focus on just whitetails. I mean, that whitetails are passion, but like a lot of us, outdoorsmen, we don't just stop right at whitetails. There's turkey and there's bear hunting, there's fishing, whatever kind of fishing you do, and even foraging for morel mushrooms and picking up antler sheds in the spring. We just wanted to make sure that we put it all on film, and we make sure that we're enforcing that there really is never an end to the season. I mean, the season is year round. One season ends, another one begins.
I bet there are a lot of people that can relate to exactly what you just said. And it just sounds like my life. So. Like it doesn't really stop. It's just it's just one thing ends, the other begins. And I look forward to each and every one of them.
Yeah. Spring's a fantastic time of year.
You got my attention.
You can turkey hunt. Yeah. You can do turkey hunt. You can go find morel mushrooms. You can pick up antlers, and fishing's just right around the corner. Might not be the prettiest outside until it starts to green up a little bit, at least in, northern part of the country, like where I'm in Wisconsin. It's still pretty brown out there. Trees are starting to bud, but it's still real, dead looking outside. There's so much life around us that you can't keep yourself indoors.
Well, I can't wait for the morel mushrooms.
Oh man, they're right around the corner. Right around the corner. I'm not a huge morel mushroom picker, but I've got some friends that are super into it, and I've been real fortunate that they've taken me along under their wing, and and if I don't get out there, they'll hand me a bag of them or whatever. And
nice.
I love them to death. They're awesome.
That's very good.
Not just morels, but pheasant backs too. You ever eat those little pheasant backs, the shelf mushrooms?
Yeah. There's quite a few different ones that you can pick and fry up that are good. You got the hen of the woods and the morel and the snakeheads, and there's all kinds of mushrooms out there.
Have you found a hen of the woods? I've never found one of those, but I hear great things about them.
Yeah, they're good.
I did that whole seminar this past weekend down at the Trinity Church in the Trinity Expo, the event that they had. They actually had a foraging for New Hampshire edibles, and I did a whole video on it. I don't know if you saw it. I'll see if I can pull it up on Facebook, but it was very interesting. They talked about the hen of the woods and the chaga mushroom, Dusty, that you remember me picking up, doing some chaga tea, and the one morel mushroom that grows out back. I can't wait for that one mushroom to grow in my backyard again this year. Seems like every year there's seems to be one that pops up, just one, only one, but I know where it grows. I wish I had a whole bunch like you guys did.
No, they're definitely good eating.
Depends on how you cook them.
Do they come in large quantities out your way, Sam?
Some of my pals have some good spots where they really do load up on them. They get a few pounds a year. But from what I've learned, once you kind of get dialed into it, you kind of get turned on to where they grow that kind of habitat.
Right.
It's pretty easy to spot those areas even from the road when you're driving by. So if it's public land or a park or something, if you see some dead elms growing or some dead apple trees, that's one spot to start.
Right.
But the times that I've gone along, again, I was just taken under the wing of a couple good friends, and they pretty much pointed me in the right direction. So I had the luxury of being, so to speak, guided to the mushrooms or whatever. But
yeah, right. That's very cool. It's hard to believe though. You must be real good buddies, because I don't take very many people to my morel spots.
Yeah, well, one of them, the guy who's I think into it the most, that comes on his private land, so he doesn't have to worry about it getting toasted by anybody from the outside or anything. It's just kind of limited to him, and he doesn't really. He prefers the pheasant backs over the morels anyway, so he doesn't mind giving some away to me, but he also you can sell them to restaurants in the area. They'll pay top dollar for those.
Right.
So one thing I did learn when you are prepping morel mushrooms is cut them in half and rinse them real well under the cold water and get the bugs out, because the bugs live in those little tunnels and it's kind of gross.
Yeah. We take it and soak it in salt water overnight.
Ah, okay. I never did that. I mean, I literally just, I get home and I cut them in half, I clean them, and then they go right in the pan with butter and saute them like that. And I don't know, how do you do it? Do you do
I
the same
take
way?
them.
Or?
Yeah, I take it when I get home. I don't cut them right away. I take and soak them in salt water. Just throw them all in, and the stainless steel bowls and a couple good shakes with a salt shaker and let them soak overnight. And by morning, all the bugs are pretty much floated to the top and they're cleaned out. I take and pull them out of there. I rinse them really good, thoroughly. Then I cut them in half and then I dip them in flour both sides while they're still moist. And my mouth's watering thinking about this. Oh my goodness! But
You fry them up?
yeah, I take and we use vegetable oil or lard, whatever we've got available at the time, and then we fry them up right there with the flour. Man, I tell you what, you put a piece of them on your forehead, your tongue slap your brains out trying to get to it.
Oh man. Well, now you're making me think that maybe I'm not getting all the bugs out with the idea of soaking them overnight in salt water. I just rinse them for a few seconds. I see some come out, but I don't know how
Right.
many. Let's call it protein.
Yeah, you'd be amazed what bugs you get out of a morel mushroom. I mean, there's so many hiding spots in a morel mushroom. It's like a big sponge, so they can tuck down in, and if you just splash them with water, I'd say they're just snuggling down in tighter.
Right.
Might be why yours are way better than mine, though.
One of the things that the Scott Jackson said at that thing is the one of the hardest things about the mushroom is really cleaning them, because all the dirt falls in the middle, depending upon the design of the mushroom, of course.
Right.
But that was the biggest challenge, not so much eating them, but cleaning them. That was the problem.
Yeah. Once I let them soak, I just cut them in half after they've soaked, and usually you'll find a centipede or something that's died inside, and then you just rinse it all out and uh, clean them up. And I'm laughing. Doug Whitcomb says, "Man, this show's making me hungry."
Doug. Yeah, we were talking about hunting. We're talking about mushrooms. We're all getting hungry now. Got to eat right before this, so
I might bounce out of here and go get a snack.
Yeah, see, I haven't eaten yet, so I'm gonna have to. Now I'm really getting hungry. Well, Sam, tell me about the Hunt More program that you have going on in the app too.
Yeah, you want me to share my screen too?
Yeah, let's look at the screen, see what you have.
Danny says, "Can you give a shout out to Iowa?" Yeah, we can give a shout out to Iowa. What's up, Iowa?
Danny.
Iowa. What part of Iowa?
What part of Iowa, Danny?
Dora Hughes says, "Hello, guys. You're awesome." Thank you, Dora.
Yeah, thank you, Dora.
So this is the Hunt More landing page. You can access this online from any web browser. The app right now is iOS only. However, we do have a developer working hard to develop the Android version. The whole point of the app, though, was to create a social atmosphere and it's themed towards hunting. The whole idea was, so I guess one way to describe it is there's people who can tell a story really well, and there's other people that maybe aren't the best at telling it, but they're really good at writing, right? But then there's people that they don't like writing and they're not good talkers, but they have stories to tell, and one way to do that is through photos. So this, and especially with smartphones nowadays, I'm amazed at how many guys are pulling out their cell phones, and guys that I had no idea had the creative bone in their body that they do, but suddenly I'm seeing these incredible photos of fish and of deer and all kinds of wildlife, and really capturing their experience. If you can tell a story through a photo, that's a pretty neat thing, and that's exactly what Hunt More allows somebody to do. So what we're looking at right now is the landing page online. So if I was to, go into the app, I'm just going to show you real quick, just a real
What's
quick
that?
preview.
What's that website again, Sam? I'm going to type it in the show notes here.
Sure, it's Huntmore, one word, huntmore.io.
Okay. I'm putting that in the commentary down below, guys, if you want to get the link right now as we speak. Huntmore.io.
So, yeah, and if you're on your smartphone looking in the App Store, if you just search Huntmore, it'll pop up right away.
Okay. And it's huntmore.io.com?
No, it's just huntmore.io.
Oh, .io, a new ending. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, a lot of times domain names are already taken. So we couldn't get the .com, and .io is a good one, so that's the one we bought. Here, this is kind of what it looks like inside of the app. Now you can add photos and you can view them from your web browser. If you don't have an iPhone, you can use your Android phone to look at them, or you can do it right from your desktop. But what it is, I mean, there are tons of thumbnails. And these thumbnails, I mean, there's hundreds of shed antler pictures. I mean, these pictures are cool too. Some of these guys, here's an example of one. This is one of the hardest places to find antlers, is in a cornfield or in a cattail marsh. And this one is in a cattail swamp, and there's nothing easy about finding an antler shed in that. And it's just so neat when you see these as they lay pictures.
It's funny you say that. I didn't see that initially. Now I do.
Yeah, now you do. Yeah. So, and there's some of these guys that are posting these pictures. I mean, some of these are just awesome. It takes me a while to stare at them before I see them as well. So it's anything from, shed antlers to, well, let's just take a look at it. I'll show you what some of the categories look like behind the scenes here. So right now there's a few high level categories. There's behind the lens, and that's really like the photographer's place. That's their domain. It's like, you go in here, if you take some real neat photos, it's kind of a parent-child hierarchy, the way that it's built. Pick the category that you're interested in looking at, and there's a lot of photos to be seen. Now, if I went back here, I think this is kind of neat. So let's see. So hunts. So you can look at success in the field pictures. If you want to look at big game or game birds or predators or small game. So if I want to look at big game, I click it, and I got a breakdown of some different species that have been uploaded so far. Here's an awesome photo here. There's a couple of really good ones. AJ Kissel, part of Chase Nation, in fact. And this guy is a dead to rights, just straight up adventure hunter. This guy is impressing me all the time, going on some really crazy hunts, all do it yourself, on public land and different parts of the country. But so I don't know if you can see the right side of my screen or not, but there's some fields with some information that, tell you a little bit about the hunt, who the hunter is, when the hunt took place, or this date looks like the date that he entered it. So he didn't actually populate the date that he killed the moose. But then there's social media aspect. I mean, you can comment on it. I mean, right now I can on the fly just say, that's a great moose, and hit enter, and then it loads it.
Wow.
So it's pretty dynamic. And the other great thing is, for manufacturers that are interested in getting involved with this, it's a win-win for them too. I mean, as a manufacturer, let's go back to categories. So outdoor apparel. Now, Chancey Walters, he hunted with Whitetail Adrenaline the last 2 years, and he filmed Jared shoot that 197. So he's got a snow goose. He loves snow goose hunting, so he's got this apparel line here. And he advertises them right here on Huntmore. You can check them out. Some information on it, shipping it, how to get in touch with him to order them, and all that. We do have the functionality to turn on e-commercing, so somebody could actually purchase it right from the app itself. But we haven't turned that feature on yet. But that's something that will be coming. But just kind of neat, It's just a neat atmosphere for folks to come check out and upload some photos and look at other photos, I guess.
Very cool.
So that's it.
I got to thinking about some of the gadgets and things like that, and I want to remind everybody watching this that this Facebook Live is sponsored by Covert Scouting Cameras, and you can see Dusty's fancy new banner that he's got hanging out in the back there. We've been using Covert for a while, and it's really made a difference in what we see in the field. Love the cameras, great pictures. You'll be seeing some more pictures from us here shortly, won't we, Dusty?
Absolutely. And you can't speak more the volume about customer service, and you call Covert, they take care of your issues. That's why they're partnered up with us, and we like that. Customer service means a lot to us, and quality camera. Check out Covert.
That Covert banner is pretty darn cool.
I like it.
It looks good. Looks good back there in your backdrop.
I think yours should be at your house, and not much time at all.
T-minus 24 hours, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Nice.
I'm gonna turn up the light in here just 1 second.
Okay. Sam's very concerned about his lighting. You can tell he's a camera guy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I do carry a camera in the field just about every time I go out. It's very important. I don't know why. It's just I love hunting and filming. I don't know. It's like you ever see something that's so immaculate outdoors and you're by yourself and there's no one there to see it with, and you almost feel selfish. Like, God, I wish there's somebody here I could just share this with, and But when you have a camera with you, you know how to work it. You can really there's your way to share what you go through and the things that you see outdoors when you are by yourself. A lot of times I got a camera guy or I'm filming for somebody else, but how often I go out self-filming, it's the greater majority of the time. So
opportunities often missed there when you don't have a camera with you.
Well, wait, say it again.
Opportunities often missed when you do not have a camera. That's why a lot of guys these days, the technology's out there and is available to do HD video, and man, it really can capture some moments that only you would experience in the outdoors.
Yeah, you're right about that. In fact, filming has really taken off over the last 5 years. You see more and more. If you go on YouTube now, you can just type in outdoors and you get 200 different groups at so-and-so outdoors, and they've got their own films or videos that they're putting together. And that's really cool to see so many people getting involved with that. I think it's neat. You can never run out of things to watch, that's for sure, and whatnot. But the one thing that I will say is that when it comes to, when you just mentioned HD cameras, if you really, depending on how serious you take it, right now, you kind of got to get on the 4K bandwagon. You got to render it down to like 1080p, and the way that you render down your video so it can play on a computer or YouTube or Facebook is important. But to have the creme de la creme, that the top quality, it's really important. So my camera gear is all old now. Not anymore. I just got new stuff, but thanks to my wife, she understands my passion for filming, and she was nice enough to get me a new 4K camera and great audio equipment, and it's just I'm excited as I've ever been to film this year. It's going to be a really solid season.
Can you explain that 4K thing for me, Sam? I don't really understand it. I understand, there's HD and it's 1080. So is 4K like 4 times that?
I don't know. I guess I can't speak it intelligently enough to say exactly why it's called 4K. I'm sure there's somebody listening to this right now that'll be like, "Oh, come on, you don't know what that is." All I know is that when I look at my 4K footage on like my big screen, it is. I mean, my TV can display 4K, it is like you can reach into the TV and almost like touch the leaves on the tree. It's
Gotcha.
crazy.
So it's just blows your mind good. That's the difference. Okay.
Yeah, crispness and pixelation and that kind of thing. It's just
Yeah.
it's
if I ain't wrong, it's like it's got like twice the vertical and horizontal resolution of a 1080.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
One of us has
super
real
crisp.
quick.
I guess we don't need to know that to shoot the video as long as it's built in the camera, right? I guess that's not the point.
Right.
You know, we don't need to know on a weather app if it's raining outside. We can just go look.
Yeah, instead of 1080, it's like 2160. Come on, guys, get with the program on this 4K video.
Okay, what are you Googling it right now? Is that what you're doing? I'm actually looking at John Klopp actually just mentioned, he says, yes, 4,000 lines of horizontal and 2,000 vertical lines. And
Right.
and John Klopp says, thank you for the safety harness, guys, which we are still running that program. I don't know, Sam, I don't know if you know what we're doing. You know how you get the tree stands and you in the box and you take them out and there's always an extra tree stand in every box now.
Extra harness.
A safety harness in every box. Not an extra tree stand, an extra safety harness in every box.
Yeah, I got a bag of them.
Right. So what we're doing is we're collecting them from people that aren't using them, because usually we go out and we buy these fancy ones for ourselves. And then it turns out that there are a ton of people that actually need these things because they don't have the fancy ones. They don't go buy them. They're using older tree stands before that whole protocol was put into place. So if you have some, man, you want to donate them to the cause, we're a little backlogged with requests right now.
Got my number, man. Text me your address. I'll put them in the mail. I mean, seriously, my wife would probably pay me to get rid of them. I got so many.
She'll thank me. Yes, for
She'll thank both of us. Get them the hell out of here.
We always look at it, man. If we could get 10, 20 hunters home safe through a hunting season, we've succeeded.
Yeah, that's no joke. I mean, I remember, and sometimes the danger is just getting up the tree in the first place. And I watched an accident one time with my brother-in-law, and he was lucky enough to get up and walk away from it, but it was pretty scary to witness. You can't trust limbs, right? I mean, you never know what you're grabbing onto. And some of the trees that we're climbing up to, we may be limited to only one tree. So we're going out, me and another guy, and we're going to film, and we wade into a marsh or something, especially in a marsh. A lot of those trees in there are dead. I mean, they've been flooded so many times, and they're still standing. And, as long as you can get over the cattails or some of the, dogwood or tags and high enough to shoot over, well, that's great. But, man, climbing those trees sucks, because a lot of times the branches are all dead. And they might have already broken off, or you grab onto them. And anyways, he was going up, somebody had left tree pegs in this old tree, and he was climbing up these tree pegs, and the tree peg ripped right out of the trunk. I mean, it's just like, that's how rotten it was. And he fell on his back, and that was pretty wicked to watch. So now I carry a safety line. So the point is with that, you got to be careful getting up. And then once you're up, you put your safety line up at the top where you're going to put your stand, and then you got to connect it down below. And then you hook up your harness, and then you kind of use that as you're climbing. So if you slip off the tree, wherever you slip off, you're still hanging there. Right. But somebody's got to get up there safely to begin with. So, it's no joke.
How much time do you spend in the swamp, Sam? Is that where you spend most of your hunting?
Yeah, I really do. I spend a lot of time hunting marshes, and and I don't know. I mean, I could relate it to a lot of different reasons, but I think if I'm serious about why I do it, I think it's because that's what I typically am limited to. I hunt public, but I also hunt a lot more private. And I will tell you that the easiest land to get permission without paying a lease, a $high lease, is swampland. A lot of guys prefer to hunt over fields that the hardwoods are easier to hunt, easier to get in and out of. And swamps they're a mess. It's hard enough to figure out how to hunt a swamp. And once you get good at it, you start killing deer, then now you got to get that deer out of there. So I find that a lot of times when I'm seeking permission on private lands, I'm knocking on doors or calling up people that have swamp in their back 40 or back 20 or whatever it is. Sometimes it's a 5-acre piece, and that's not to say that, I get yeses a lot. I bet you I hear 300 no's before I hear one yes, and that might take me all summer. I might spend my lunch hour at work looking up property parcel owners, taxpayer information, then white paging for their phone numbers, make a list with some notes and the acreage and whereabouts that piece is, and then on the way home from work, I'll call them up and talk to them and get hung up on, told no how many times, and finally somebody says yes, and 9 out of 10 times it's usually a swamp. So that's just where I spend a lot of time.
Gotcha.
There's some mighty.
That's what I'm learning more and more as I talk to more and more hunters that have big deer on their wall, is that there's the swamps are safety spots for them, and that's where a lot of hunters won't go, and those that do, boy,
Yeah.
it can make a big difference.
Well, really, really good spots to hunt if you're hunting in a swamp during the early part of the season into middle of November. But I'll tell you what, once it starts to freeze, that's when the deer start to migrate out of those swamps and they start to go to higher ground. At least that's what it's like. I can't speak for everywhere, but that's how it is by me. And
Okay.
I was scratching my head by it one time. I was thinking about, well, why do they do that? And of course, deer are always going to be bedding in swamps like that, especially cattail marshes and whatnot. They're looking for a little bit of elevation where they can bed down. And you can, Dan pointed out in that Q&A session you guys did with him going over the maps, those little island clumps where there's maybe a tree growing, and you can find those with an aerial, and you can go check them out, and there's probably a bed by it. So they're bedding on these tiny little islands that are slightly elevated, and they're dry, and they can hear anything sloshing through the water around them. So if they can hear something coming towards them, they can make a fast break out the back door. But once it freezes, now they're screwed. Coyotes have an easier time getting through the marsh when everything's frozen. Everybody has an easier time. And deer, they've got hooves. They slip around on the ice. They definitely don't like laying down on the ice. And so marshes are kind of not my most ideal place to hunt in late season. Hopefully you're tagged out by then. Yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting concept. I keep my reticular activators going off every time I drive by a swamp. Now I'm looking at it way differently than I used to since I talked to you and Dan Infalt. And this coming weekend, we got a fellow by the name of Scott Shaw that's coming up. He's a friend of Dan's. The show will launch on Saturday at 5 a.m. like it always does. But he's a swamp hunter too, out of Michigan. So there's this recurring theme, and the stuff that they do, the techniques that they use, you're all kind of similar at what I'm finding. I think this is going to be a big chapter in my book when I finally write it after talking to so many great hunters across the country. But it's a fascinating way to hunt.
Dan Infalt he is an icon when it comes to swamp hunting. Far and wide, people know his name, and for good reason. His strategy is unparalleled by just about the greater majority of hunters out there, and there's a lot of really great hunters out there, but everybody's kind of got their niche, and Dan's is swamp hunting. I mean, that guy excels anywhere he goes. He's a very smart hunter, and he understands whitetail movement and habitat and just how they operate. It's almost like he's part deer.
Yeah.
But we all have a little bit different approaches.
Right.
So,
how long would it took you to educate yourself about the swamp, Sam?
Well, I'll tell you, and I'm going to go back to Dan again. Dan, you owe me big time for so many props.
I've heard the word Dan a lot tonight.
Hey, you know what? He elevated the way that I maneuver through swamps through some of his lessons. So I give him a lot of credit there. But I did begin hunting swamps from an early age. So again, my dad and I spent a lot of time in marshes. I would say my dad would qualify, especially back then when he did it more. He was, he was your marsh rat. I mean, he loved being in the marshes, exploring different marshes, and he'd take me on those adventures with him. And we weren't always hunting. We weren't always fishing. Sometimes we were just canoeing or, just hiking or using marsh skis or whatever. but we spent a lot of time in the marshes, and that's, I guess, he taught me a lot about navigating marshes as well.
Gotcha. We're still reading some of the lines here. We got John Klopp, and he says, you guys have the best hunting podcast. I've learned so much listening to them. Thank you, John, for that. We definitely try to bring the best hunters that we can and bring them onto the show. And then he says, unfortunately, here in Florida, we don't get freezing swamp water so much. I would imagine you wouldn't get any. And he said, I want to get deep into the green swamp here, but like Sam said, they hear me coming a mile away.
Yeah, there's a lot of techniques you can use to get deep into a wet green up swamp like that, but none of them are easy. I think the first one that comes to mind is, and I've seen some of those pictures from those scenes and those flooded swamps in Florida, and what I see is a lot of are kayaks. If you can find a flat bottom boat, a duck skiff or a kayak that doesn't drag on the bottom and is got a thick enough hull that it doesn't make too much noise when the reeds or grass or anything underneath it is scratching the bottom of it, that's a good way to go. And also paddling makes a lot of noise. So if you can manage getting a hold of a push pole to maneuver your way through, you got to stand up to use one. But that's one thing my dad used to do a lot of, is push poling. And it's a whole heck of a lot quieter. It's just a little, it's a narrow pole. It might only be a 2-inch or 1.5-inch diameter, and maybe like 9 feet long or 8 feet long. And you can give yourself a good shove off, and you can moderate your speed. You can drag on the bottom to slow yourself down, and moving really slow. You got to move really slow. But yeah, some of these tips are, they're generic. Anybody can kind of figure that out, I guess. And hunting is hard no matter where you go. And this gentleman in Florida definitely has his work cut out for him. So I
think we need to do a show about Florida hunting. It's not something we've really done before, Dusty. I don't think, have we?
No, not as far as whitetail or anything in Florida.
We've had some. What's that?
I hope John's still listening. And I want him to look me up on Facebook, Dusty Phillips, and give me the contact number, John. Maybe we can talk to you a little bit and see if we can't work something out. I'd be real interested in talking about it.
We've had some guests that have moved to Florida since they were living elsewhere.
Right.
But we haven't actually gone to Florida and talked to somebody that hunts the swamps of Florida. That could be an interesting show. Yeah, something we'll have to do.
Yep. I think we'll have to pursue that. And Sam, bringing up some great tips there for the swamp hunting as far as the push pole and the flat bottom boat, and it's always awesome to help educate somebody to maybe be just a tad bit more successful in the whitetail area.
Sam, I had one other question before we wrap up here, and we're kind of getting up on time. So if you have any other questions, guys, definitely write them down now, because we're going to wrap up here in the next five minutes or so. Sam, since the last time we had you on the podcast, which was back in November of 2016, anything happened between now or then and now in the deer woods that you want to tell us about? I know you've probably got a lot on film that you may be holding back to release, but any interesting hunting stories you might want to release to us here on Facebook Live?
Oh man, you know how I get. I tend to talk too much, so I'm afraid of getting into a story. But I did have a really, 2 years in a row now have been memorable seasons for me and my wife. The last 2 seasons I've been fortunate enough to be invited to go hunt with Jared and the crew at Whitetail Adrenaline. So once again, went back this year in October and hunted with those boys on the Minnesota side in public land. Of course, we busted out the old Warrior canoe and went down the river again. Explored some new public and went back to some pieces that we'd been to last year. Had some really great encounters. Threw an arrow at one after a long week of missed opportunities and hiking, and he wasn't very far away. He's probably 12 yards away, and I hit he was standing right behind a cedar tree, a dead cedar tree, and I hit one of the branches right in front of him. And that was kind of heaven sent to me or something, because when he ran away, I realized just how small he was. And I got nothing against shooting. Anybody can shoot whatever they want. I'm not that way at all, so don't take it that way. But what I am saying is that you get to a certain point in your hunting career where you kind of focus on certain types of deer. And for me, I was targeting bigger deer, and when I looked at him through the binoculars, he was probably only 60 yards away, but I just threw the binos up and I looked at him and I was like, yeah, he's a shooter. And I told my cameraman, I said, just start rolling and I'm going to shoot him. And he walked right up to me, and I didn't even look at his antlers, and I shot at him and he turned, tucked tail, and ran away. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I missed. That deer was really small. But that's what happens to you when you're hiking as much as we did. I mean, every day we're putting on the miles from before light till after dark and paddling up and down rivers and whatnot. And it wears on you. So at that point on public land, when things go tough like that, and you only got one more day to hunt, it's kind of like do or die. And we tried and then we died, so to speak. And I was fortunate enough during gun season to witness my wife harvest a great buck. It's her third deer ever. Last year she was 7 months pregnant, and she was up in the blind by herself and killed her first buck and a doe. And then this year she's pregnant again, and at the time she was 3 months pregnant, and she shot a 5x5, really, really heavy horned deer, probably a 6.5-year-old deer, but soda can bases, and just a beautiful buck, and she was super proud of, and I think I was more proud than she was. I missed one on opening day of the gun season, and I got an invite from a good friend of mine, Matt Hazel, a dairy farmer here in southeastern Wisconsin, and he invited me out to a piece that he had permission to hunt from another real nice fellow named Jesse Topol on a small 35-acre tract. Matt went out in the rain the night before, threw a stand 30 feet up in an old hickory tree, and never hunted the piece before. The next morning I showed up to the dairy farm. He was just finishing up feeding the calves. We got in the truck, went there, and passed on a big 5x5 because we couldn't get the camera on him at the same time as I was on him with the gun, and vice versa. So we were kind of beating ourselves up a little bit about it. And then I told him, let's just give me 5 more minutes to be up in this tree, and then we'll go do Thanksgiving with our families. And he said, okay. And I was just turning to him to say, okay, we can wrap it up. And I quartered my eye. I saw a wall of antlers and ended up killing a mid 160s buck.
Nice.
Super tall, mainframe 5x5, but he's got broken brow, but he is a special deer to me. And I also got real lucky during the archery season. Ended up killing a real nice wide 8-pointer here in southeast Wisconsin. So,
nice. And how many of those did you get on film? All of them?
Every single hunt is on film. However, there's Matt, my buddy Matt, who was with me in the tree when I got the big one, and on Thanksgiving morning, he recorded everything so perfectly, but when that deer was right there, I saw him get his eye on the camera, and he started focusing and getting ready on the zoom. So I got the gun up and I said, "Are you on him?" And he goes, "Yes." I didn't wait, and I pulled the trigger, and he pressed record right before I fired, and the deer drops in his tracks. So it's like everything happened so fast, and then you'll hear it. You got to watch it. It's actually hilarious. He gets teary-eyed. He's laughing so hard, but he's crying because he's excited because it's a big buck, and he feels bad. He's like, "I didn't press record, Sam." It was funny, but looking back, I remember. I don't know if I was laughing at the time, but I was definitely excited. But I was kind of sad that he didn't get it on film. But I'll let it go this time.
Gotcha.
But
so
if you want to watch it.
Yeah, where can we find all those videos?
Well, let me share my screen here real quick. I really do want folks to come and check out the Chase Nation website. Can you see it all right?
Yeah, crystal clear on our side.
Okay, so cool. So this is the Chase Nation website. You can visit it by chasenation.co. So no M at the end, not chasenation.com, but it's chasenation.co. You can read a little bit about us, what we stand for, what we represent, and then you can go ahead and click on Meet the Crew. You can see the guys and girls on our team and what they're all about, and see some awesome photos of them. And then if you
Cool.
want to go and check out any of our videos, click watch now, and we've got they're all YouTube links, and they'll play right there on your screen. Here's Brad Orwinski in a Montana hunt with his longbow, checking out a doe he just shot. Here's that Snowy River hunt that you saw on the wall behind me. Alaska billy goat hunt. This is all do-it-yourself fair chase hunting. And then here's that doe hunt, and then a black bear hunt. And so, yeah, I mean, come to chasenation.com and check it out. You can also take a look at some of the photos from our hunts. And then we also have a journal section here that's got articles. I do a lot of outdoor writing, and I put some of them on this page here. So you can read about all kinds of different things here. Here's my wife's
That's awesome.
book.
You've got a nice organized website going on over there, and it's obviously all the stuff that we love here as well. That's great, man. Nice job.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Jeremy Knight said, "What's up, Dustin Day? What's happening, Jeremy Knight?"
Hey, Jeremy. How are you, my friend? It was good to hear from old friends on the Facebook feed. Well, cool, man. Sam, I think we're going to wrap this up, but thanks for joining us on our Facebook Live events that we've been doing. I'm not quite sure what we're calling them yet. It's almost like Big Buck TV, I guess. I'm not quite sure what we're going to name this thing, but it's been fun, and certainly good to put a face to a voice finally.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to you guys again. I like what you're doing here. You keep doing it. This is the beginning of it. It's going to get better. You'll have better and better folks on here that are better to look at than us, and it'll blow up, I'm sure.
I look really good on radio, so I'm not sure how long I'm going to be sticking around on this thing.
Right. Hey, thanks for everybody that tuned in with us, all the people that come on live, and thank you, Sam. And this broadcast was sponsored by Covert Scouting Cameras, www.dlccovert.com.
Very cool, man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I'm going to wrap up the broadcast, and Sam, hang tight for just a second. I'm going to kill the live feed, but thanks everybody for tuning in.